This morning we are having two very important celebrations. Number one is the disappearance of Srila BA Paramadvaiti Maharaj, our Shiksha Guru, as Govinda Maharaj pointed out nicely. It is him you can see here on the picture to the left, and his spiritual master and our Parama Guru Dev, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur Prabhupada, is here on the right side. This is our spiritual family, and we visited Srila Bhakti Paramadvaiti Maharaj in the city of Jagannath Puri just short time before he departed from this world, when there was an intense farewell Vyasa Puja gathering, attended by practically all the senior Gaudiya Vaishnavas of that time. So they all came together to honor Srila Puri Maharaj while he was in very deep absorption of his divine engagement as an eternal associate of Lord Krishna, and the unique sweetness how he used to practice spiritual life was very enchanting, very endearing to say the least, because you could perceive him to be so deeply absorbed in the divine Leela. Once a devotee left a tape recorder in Srila Puri Maharaj's room, just turned on, and everybody left and nobody moved. And later they came and they took the tape, so that he was singing for the divine bhajans. You know, as a person would sing to Krishna because he was all alone, there was nobody else. It wasn't like when you sing in front of a public, there's a certain interaction, you make a certain performance there, at least to gather some energy to offer to the other people. So in this way, but when you're all alone and you sing, well, you're all alone with Krishna, no? So these recordings, they turned out to be so sweet, so beautiful, such incredible flower offerings of divine bhajan, then one could perceive who was that personality of Srila Bhakti Paramadvaiti Maharaj. Very outstandingly, he was in our mission one of those great souls who would push onwards with the mission from his very early age of approximately 17 years. Srila Bhakti Paramadvaiti Maharaj became a member of the mission of his spiritual master at that age, and he left this world at 102 years. So there was a long time of being able to do lots of things. And that what he was known for, doing lots of things. One of his lots of things was publications, which he did until the very end of his life. He made the most beautiful publications. In his lifetime, in the earlier age, when his Gurudev was present, he was the editor of the daily newspaper Nadia Prakash, which was the only, and maybe the only in the history of Vaishnavism, daily newspaper with spiritual topics. As a matter of fact, his Gurudeva, who had started the Nadia Prakash, he was once attacked, said, how can you have a daily newspaper on spiritual topics? How can you have that? We have daily junk newspapers all over the world telling you the same stuff of the world again and again. It's just the same story, just different frames. So then Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur responded, he says, the spiritual world, that is real news. And there could be a newspaper every second published about the activities in the spiritual world. So don't think that the daily newspaper is something exaggerated, not at all. Just like the divine absorption, the deep meditation, the deep love in the deep prayer. That's something which can separate us from time factor. Because a time factor is a calculative factor, apparently. At least in its mundane manifestation of past, present, and future, we are always enwrapped in different material plan makings and being pulled between hankering and lamentation. Usually we hanker for something eagerly, or we lament for not having obtained it the way we wanted. So then another hankering will subdue the lamentation, and another lamentation will subdue the hankering. And this way, hankering and lamentation is a calculative affair which continuously accompanies us in this world. So, divine bhajan is the process to go beyond time, to go into the world of prayer. There's no time, there's no end of love. If there's real love, then this love will be morning, evening, day, night, everywhere, anywhere, all the time, because that's love. The most close description of love in this world towards divine love is mother's love for the children. Because mother's love for the children is a bit of that kind. It's always there. Mother has no vacation from being mother. Mother has no arguments. Says, oh, I'm very tired. I'm not going to go to this crying baby again. I've had it. All day I was hanging around with this kid and did everything for it. Now, will please leave me alone at night time? No. Mother gets up. Why you're crying, dear baby? I'm here. I'm your mother. Count on me. And baby very happy. Oh, yes. I had no reason to cry. Mother was still there. So this type of love is towards divine love the closest approximation. It's not on the top level, otherwise we wouldn't have women making abortion of babies. That obviously shows that there is a great limitation in our mundane relationship of mothers to children, and neglect of children also does exist. No? But in divine love there is no possibility, there's no space for neglect. There's no space for minimization, and there's no space for superficiality even. So it's something incredible, it's something unbelievable, it's something unheard of. So what we are aspiring for in this process of spiritual life, it is definitely not an ordinary thing. It is not a market product. It is not a common commodity. It is actually the supreme goal of life, which can only be produced upon coming in contact with the true source of spiritual energy, and by reciprocating to that source with the appropriate attitude, which is called surrender. We were talking about surrender the other day in terms of mundane surrender, which is the war situation. People pull out the white flag and announce their unconditional surrender to the enemy. So this is not the surrender which the spiritual master calls upon. Yes, we are also in a kind of a war against Maya. Maya is illusion, and makes us think that we can be happy in this material world, that money is really great, and that this, all this type of illusions. There's many shades of illusion. So in order to go to spirituality all in all, you have to fight a certain war against Maya. But when we talk about surrender, we are actually referring to something quite different. In the terminology of surrender, in spiritual life, the word means to embrace the greatest of all loving invitations without any shaking. Surrender means, one time my sannyas guru, he was being questioned about some issues by some devotees which were not relevant. So his answer was, mind your own business, surrender. That is our real business of life, to surrender. What does this mean? What does this entail? Surrender. Surrender, Sharanagati, in Sanskrit, has been very nicely described in an extensive song of Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur. Surrender is the absolute acceptance in word and deed, and perfectly or preferably in thought as well, of what is favourable towards obtaining the progress on my path back to home, back to Godhead. To get there, that is the goal of my life. There is no more important thing, there is no better thing than that for me. But there are impediments. So to accept everything favourable, to go to this right direction, that is one of the symbols of surrender. And on the contrary, to be very decided and determined and progressive in rejecting everything unfavourable towards reaching the lotus feet of Lord Krishna. So here we are coming into contact with Lord Krishna. Surrender has something to do with Lord Krishna and with his beloved devotee. Because the initial outgoing point, as far as accepting everything favourable and rejecting everything unfavourable, we may not be so secure yet. What is the goal to achieve? We just know it is light. We know it is peace. We know it is beyond duality. We know it is beyond misery. We know it's beyond lie and all the other garbage. But really, surrender comes to not have any separate desires from Lord Krishna's desires. So that focuses here very concretely. Surrender means that there is somebody else's desires who are determining what is surrender. Surrender is not like some people that really want to surrender to themselves, but they don't know what that means. Well, first of all, just surrender to the whims of their body, the senses, like horses, drag the guy, left and right, get this, do this. Then they try to surrender to the mind, and to do everything and know everything and be deeply engrossed in the mental world. All these surrenders totally failures, because they are simply taking us to what we have already experienced again and again, the chewing of the chewed, the old chewing gum which again you pull down and try to chew a little bit more on it, something like that. Whatever has been chewed already, tasted already, is not going to give you any value in the future, because you already rejected it once. So what you rejected once, why do you have to try it again? Just because you're bored? Just because you have no other option? Well, that is the mistake, and that is why surrender to Krishna and surrender to yourself is quite different. Like a person surrenders to himself means, I want to control this body. Some people, they can get their muscles developed in such a way that you're amazed. A normal person couldn't think of doing such a thing. They're climbing up walls like they're monkeys. and they're doing fine, they're hanging around in the rocks and doing all this stuff. Another person, in other words, we can submit this body and mind to a certain surrender. I mean, I've met people who actually memorized an entire telephone book of a big city like New York, They memorized the telephone book. You could tell them any name and then they would give you the number and the street where the guy lived. Very valuable application of one's mental capacity. But this is the type of thing, You can surrender in a mental, intellectual and physical way, but this surrender is not surrender. This is just an exercise which shows the capacity, but it doesn't give you anything. But surrender means not to have separate desires from Lord Krishna's desires. That is the qualification of surrender. Instead of putting your desire in the forefront, you have to consider the sweet will of Krishna. What's the sweet will of Krishna for me, for my relationships, for my work, for my resources, for anything and everything having to do with me? What is the relationship of Lord Krishna, or the wish of Lord Krishna for that? That we should accept wholeheartedly. Then we can talk about surrender. Then it is a change. Surrender brings about a major change in existence, a transition, a shifting from the efforts of egotism to spiritual dedication. So this is very substantial. We should be very cautious about it. But we should also consider that we are entirely dependent on the Lord's grace. We are not in control. We wish we would, but we aren't. We were not in control when we were born. Whether you had a healthy birth or not, it wasn't up to you. Whether you had a good mother or father, it wasn't up to you. Whether what the body looks like, which you got, it wasn't up to you either. There's tons of things in your life that aren't up to you. So they're up to who? Well, when we look upon the Vedas, they would say it's up to your past activities, but it's being dispatched to you by superior rules and regulations, laws which are personified in the Mother Nature, Durga, and through the agency of Yamaraj, a specific birth has been paid for each and every one in this lifetime. And that's why we look the way we look. That's why we think the way we think. Everything has been a product of our past karma. But it is not impersonal. It is not accidental. It is very perfectly dispatched for your individual necessity. And you can make a good use of a bad bargain by surrender. By utilizing what has been given to you in the service of Krishna, you can make a good use of a bad bargain. Why do I say a bad bargain? Well, each and everyone can tell his own story of his bad bargain. I don't say everything is bad, but to be born in this material world in the middle of Kali Yuga and exactly ecstatic. I think everybody can tell his story in this regard. No? The amount of abuse, exploitation, what is going on all around us and probably also within our close vicinity. No thanks. This is miserable. Dukkha shasvatam. Lord Krishna says, miserable and temporary. This is where I got myself by my bad activities. But now I'm surrendering to Krishna. Now I'm putting my life into the hands of Krishna and his devotee. My surrender now means, please take care on me. And the next principle is, and I'm totally sure that he will always protect me. I have no doubt that Krishna will look after me. Means, even the difficulties which come towards me, I accept them as mercy. That is Tatenu Kampam this Bhagavatam verse where it says, whatever happens to you, see God behind it. That you may get some suffering, your body may suffer, there may be earthquakes, you don't know what's going to happen. You're going to say, everything, my Lord, you're doing this so I can decide myself more to come towards you. Everything is positive. In the mood of surrender, everything is positive. Everything is progressive. Everything is going to the end. Because we have to go to the end anyway. What's the end of this body? Well, death. It's not a very interesting end. It's interesting what comes afterwards, but the very fact of growing old, age, and dying, this is only then substantial and important when you have a progressive consciousness. Otherwise, if you just have a material consciousness, it is just means stepping into your next karmic chamber. And the next karmic chamber is already being pre-programmed by what you're doing in this lifetime. So there ain't no accident in this. This is all perfectly alienated according to the final purpose of existence, which has been decided by God. The final purpose of existence has been designed and set by God, not by you, not by me, by God. He knew what he was doing, he did it, and it is him we have to surrender to. So surrender is something very substantial, no? It's not something, oh, Jai, incredible, oh, Gurudev, and then you go home and do whatever you like. That is not surrender. That's just showboat surrender. So, the sixth principle of surrender is to be meek and humble. Maybe the most difficult of all principles. Meek and humble. That is to be 100% convinced that there's nobody worse than you. It's pretty tough. If you can swallow that pill, you swallow the big one. Once, Lord Krishna, he called upon Duryodhana. And he said, my dear Duryodhana, can you please come? I have a question. Could you please be so kind and find somebody who's more qualified than you? So Duryodhana said, yes, my Lord, I will immediately try. And he went and he looked and looked and looked and looked, and after several days he returned to Lord Krishna and he said, my dear Lord Krishna, I'm very sorry, but sincerely speaking, I've looked and looked, I just couldn't find anybody more qualified than me. So that was his Duryodhanic vision. Then Lord Krishna, he called King Yudhishthira. And he said, Yudhishthira, could you come here? I have a little request. Could you please go out and find somebody who is more disqualified than you are? Who has lesser qualities than you? Then Yudhishthira Maharaj said, oh my Lord, yes, I will try. So he went out and he looked and looked and looked. And after a long time he came back and said, my dear Lord, I'm so sorry. Why are you sorry? I could not find anybody more disqualified than myself. I am thinking I'm the most disqualified, definitely. Oh, Lord Krishna said, very nice. I like the Yudhishthiric vision. So which one of the two systems you subscribe to? The Duryodhanic vision or the Yudhishthiric vision? And Duryodhana could not find anybody who had any better quality than him. And Yudhishthira couldn't find anybody who was more disqualified than him. So that is called diametrically opposed. That is called Daivik and Ashuric. They're diametrically opposed from each other. And this principle of surrender, meek and humble, means to feel like King Yudhishthira. to understand that I'm a recipient of mercy. I'll give you one example which can help you to assimilate this world view. And that is, we are all a bit proud in this world, but before one fact, we are all the same. We are all maintained. You see, being maintained, this entails a lot of things. Being maintained entails that you are getting some grace, like mother's grace to the child. Maintained means it's a subordinate position. Let's call it an inferior position. The one who is being maintained is inferior to the one who is maintaining him. And we are all a bunch of maintained people. So we are all inferior, but we do not want to recognize it. We say no. This is the course of nature. Actually, nature is subservient to me. Nature is just supplying to me what it ought to supply. And I am in charge. I can lord it over. I am the Veni Vidi Vinci. I see, I conquered. I went. I'm the Lord of all. I survey. I look at the moon. I say, this is my moon. Hey, you watch it. It's my moon. I looked first. So it's like that. Anything we see, it's mine. I'm in control. This is an audacity. This is the way how when the white guys went to America, one of the most embarrassing aspects of history, they would stack their claims as far as they could see. They would say, well, from here to that mountain over there, in the end, that's my area now. So if you want to get some, go somewhere else, but not here. So, and that's how finally they ended up saying, oh, we are the owners of this country, because anybody who was in between the mountain here, they were now their private property, whether human or beast or anything. So this audacity of thinking that others are under your control, this is the exact opposition to meekness and humbleness. And it is not accepted, because all you are is a maintained guy. And you better figure out who is maintaining you. Because if you are being maintained and you don't care who maintains you, you never say even thank you. You don't ask what commitment is coming towards me along with being maintained. You never ask those questions. So you have a mentality which is like very, very ignorant, to say it in a very soft way. You can say other words like you are ungrateful, you have a mentality which is absolutely unrealistic. It's a kind of a madness to be maintained and not to understand somebody is maintaining me. Why is he maintaining me? Why does he have so much concern with me that he keeps me alive? What is the purpose behind that? So surrender means to be meek and humble and to consider yourself the least qualified of all. And as you consider yourself this way, you are entering into the negative section. Now that's a very tricky thing what I'm explaining right now. If you can understand that, it will be very beneficial for you. When you position yourself in the negative section, then all you acquire from there onwards is positive. If you position yourself in the positive section, all you acquire from there on is negative. So therefore the saying of Jesus Christ, the last one will be the first one, and the first one will be the last one. So it's like that. The more you push yourself forward, the more degraded you become. And the more you are ready to support and humbly serve, then the more quality you actually accumulate. So we are in this contradictory field. We always think, hey, I gotta be the first. Hey, I gotta make the show. Hey, don't forget me. And what about doing something practical, congenial to the situation? No, I'm not ready. I'm not interested. So, in this way, the material world is giving us the example that we can be so far away from the reality and still we are proud of it. It's dangerous. The mundane world, that's why Srila Prabhupada called the universities the slaughterhouses of the soul. Because they're making the certified ego that you are a very qualified man in this world even though you don't know anything. And then you live with that for the rest of your life. Like with, I have a certificate, I'm a PhD, I'm this, I'm that. But what do you know about where you come from? What do you know about the one who maintains you? What do you know about the purpose of life or the purpose of this world? Well, nothing. I didn't study that. So that means you don't know. It means you are not anything qualified. You're just disqualified. And that is very dangerous. To think yourself qualified when you're actually disqualified is the worst thing which can happen to you. So therefore, the devotee, he should be always humble and he should think, my Lord, what is it what you wish me to do? What is it what you wish me to learn? Like, then you're eager to acquire certain virtues and values. Yes, you will only want to acquire positive assessments when you feel that your negative situation is unbearable. You only make an effort for change when you realize what my present condition is, I cannot go on tolerating it. So the negative feeling becomes a positive impulse, to put it like a little bit more mechanical. Like Albert Einstein said, there is no problem. A problem is a benediction in disguise, because you cannot solve any problem in the same consciousness in which you created that problem. So therefore a problem gives you this obligation to raise to a higher level of consciousness so that you can tackle the problem. So then is the problem a problem, or is the problem a benediction? It's a help. So if you look upon life this way, then everything is great. You have no more reasons to lament. Just go ahead. Armed with the sword of knowledge, Krishna says to Arjuna, go and fight against illusion. And that is what our spiritual masters did. They fought against illusion. They gave their whole effort so that everybody can become a devotee of the Supreme Maintainer. We worship Krishna because He maintains everyone. But wait a second, not just because He maintains, also, or more so, because He loves everyone. He's love personified. Like I said, just for the fact of maintaining others, He already deserves anything and everything. Because if somebody maintains me, somebody's so kind, He's making the arrangements that I can survive in this existence. And I'm not talking only about the physical survival. I mean about the existential survival. Means coming into existence to begin with, being a conscious unit to begin with. And if you go a little deeper into the subject, you realize that you will remain a conscious unit even when this body dies. We are not a conscious unit just here on the level of our so-called temporary identity with our so-called passport and our so-called nationality and so-called race and so-called acquisitions. No. the very conscious unit existence that has come into being by the sweet will of the Supreme Consciousness, of the Supreme Conscious Unit. So as much as you are a conscious unit, there is an original Supreme Conscious Unit, which is the creator of all other conscious units and the maintainer of them in all its conditional phases intermediate. So that is the person we worship. He is the one. There's no discussion about it. We don't have to argue why you worship Krishna. We just call him Krishna, but you may call the conscious unit anything you want. Call him Allah, call him Jehovah, call him Buddha, call him whatever you want. But he is the one who deserves to be worshipped. The supreme original conscious unit. And that is what is Krishna consciousness.